Hey friend, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here listening to another episode of the Pattern Design Circle podcast. Here we talk all about the ins and outs of designing knit and crochet patterns and running a business that makes it all possible. I'm Jessica, your host, knitting pattern designer, design mentor, and the friend in your ear. Can't wait to dive right in. The Pattern Design Circle podcast is sponsored by the Pattern Design Circle, a membership community for knit and crochet pattern designers that are feeling lost, lonely, or frustrated in their business. It connects you with a supportive community that's always eager to answer your questions and help you through the hard times. And there's loads of resources and activities specifically catered to business and designing. Sound like your jam? Check it out at snickerdoodleknits.com/design-circle. That's snickerdoodle, like the cookie, knits, knits.com/design-circle. All right, let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Pattern Design Circle podcast. I'm your friend in your ear here. I'm so excited that you're here. So today we are going to continue part 2 of the interview with Jacob Collier that I started. I don't remember if it was the 2 episodes ago, it looks like, when this is actually released. But yes, if you didn't listen to that episode, I know it's a little bit of a long one. I actually just finished recording that. That's why I still have the same outfit and all the things. But I loved it. It's all about passion and creativity and doing things for a purpose and all of the things that I feel like us creative entrepreneurs resonate so deeply with. So if you haven't listened to it, I hope you go listen to it and that you find it extremely motivational and inspirational. This episode, so this is part 2, this is inspired by taking quotes from the same interview with Jacob Collier on the Collin Samir Show. And this one, we are talking more about business and entrepreneurship than we are about the creativity art side of things. So we are going to talk about fear, and we're going to talk about having a growth mindset, and even a few hot takes on branding and things like that. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Also, I did mention the last episode, or the part 1 of this was quite long. This one shouldn't be as long. I didn't have as many points that I really wanted to pull out. So, all right, buckle up. Let's go. To start off with, the last episode, I also started with kind of starting off as a creative entrepreneur. So I want to start at the same place again with this episode. So something that Jacobs shared in this interview was, he said, the hardest thing to do is to make the first mark because there's a fear it won't be the right mark. Can you resonate with that like I can? There is so much pressure to do it perfectly from the beginning, to create a thing and for it to be impactful and for it to be a booming success. I know for myself, even in like creating a new program or a new coaching offer or like a new Instagram account, when I started the Pattern Design Circle Instagram account, or all of the things, even kind of restarting a project or restarting, like starting to show up on social media again. It's like that first thing needs to be the impactful, amazing thing that blows people away. And that's a lot of pressure. And it can put a lot of fear into things, and it can make you procrastinate. It can make you maybe never do the thing. It can make you scared to start. And the reality is, the first mark. So I also had this problem, um, like with say like notebooks and journals and things like that. I know when I first opened Pattern Design Circle the membership, somebody else had shared this, and so I gave her some tips on it too. But um, like she had the exact same problem with journals and things, planners, where it's like, all right, I want it to be perfect from the get-go. I don't want to regret what I put down, right? The beautiful thing about being an artist, about being an entrepreneur, is that that first mark, it's just the first mark. So if it's a painting, if it's the first word of a poem, if it's the first word of a book, if it's um, how you start off writing your knitting pattern, any of those kinds of things, it's only the first mark. There's going to be so many other marks. So in a painting, sure, the first stroke is important. It gets you started. But there's how many thousands or millions of marks after that that make the painting, and you can mark right over it. It's not the end of the world. Even in a journal or something, you could tear out that page if you know, like work to overcome your fear of perfection. It doesn't matter. It's there. It's fine. It doesn't matter. And in as a creative, the first thing that you create is not going to be the last thing that you create. The first thing that you create is just like the first ittiest bittiest step. Like if you're a painter and you've created thousands of paintings or hundreds of paintings, how many ever paintings you've created, that first painting, it's just another, I mean, it's very important to you because it was your first one, right? Like has a lot of symbolism in it. And you've learned and grown so much since then. But the first one, it's just the first one. There's so much more beyond that. There's so much more to come. And it's true as a business. Your first product that you create, it probably won't stay in your business lineup. It probably, like, I guess, if you have if you sell digital products like I do, it might stay there. Um, and actually, it's one of my best-selling patterns. But it does, if you don't love it, if you don't feel like it's an amazing mark that you've made, you don't have to keep selling it. You can change it. You can, you know, or if you're creating products, like pottery or something, you just create a different style, right? It's okay. You you can change. You can do something different. And your audience, to them, it's just one mark. To you, it's something significant. To you, it resembles a whole lot of stuff. It's going to have nostalgia to it, but that's going to make it sweeter than what it even feels like in the time, right? So, um, easier said than done, I know, but kick that fear to the curb. Just do the thing, just get started. There are so many things that require us to take action for us to really learn and to grow and to improve and to find even our sense of self or our what it is that we really truly love in our work, what sets us apart, what makes us unique, what we really want to focus on and do forever and ever and ever. Although, if you're like me, you change, right? That changes. But that first step, it's so important because it's what gets you started. But what that first step actually looks like, it doesn't matter. People aren't going to pay that much attention to it. It's going to get forgotten unless it's something that you continue to bring up to them, right? So, um, and I love to remind you that uh, so many of the extremely successful people that you have seen, whether it's on TV, whether it's an author, whether it's a YouTuber, they did not start out successful. They tried and tried and tried and tried and tried again. They kept creating, they kept doing the thing until they became successful. That first mark does not have to be perfect. It doesn't really even matter what the mark is. With the internet, you can delete it off the internet. And well, don't make it really something you really regret, but because the internet is permanent in a way. But if it's on your social media or whatever, and it's something that now you're embarrassed about, you can go delete it. If it doesn't fit your brand, whatever. I've never done that. I just create more content and it gets lost down below. But anyway, if you haven't started yet, if there's a new project, a new piece of art, a new offer, a new business idea, maybe it's something like creating a new marketing plan, or it's something like planning or scheduling, and you're just scared about the beginning, with all of my love, I tell you to kick that fear away, do it anyway, take action, continue to take action for a little while until it starts to become a habit or you've given it a chance. And it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. That first mark doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. It doesn't matter if anybody else loves it. It just matters that you do it so that you get started. All right. Um, on to the next topic. On to the next rant, right? um, you can make work for an audience. You can create your stuff, create your artwork, create your product for your audience. You can make it for an algorithm. You can conform to an algorithm. You can make sure that it's going to be the super successful thing on the latest platform. You can do that. You can also create for yourself. You can embrace your creativity and your passion and your love. You get to choose. That choice is yours. Um, and there's no one way to do things. So it's not wrong to create for your audience. It's not wrong to conform to an algorithm. It's not wrong to create for yourself. It's not wrong to lean into your passion and your creativity. But this is where it's so important to know what is most important to you, what your definition of success is, what you really love, what you really want, like your life to feel like, or what you want your life to be filled with. So you know what to lean into, because there are 300 million bajillion different ways of doing things. There's so many different ways to market your business, so many different ways that you can talk to your audience, so many different ways that you can show up on social media, so many ways that you can go viral, so many ways that you can build an audience, so many ways that you can sell your product. And there are people out there trying to sell you on every single one of those ways, trying to convince you that that's what you need, that's what's going to make you happy, that's what's going to make you successful, that's what's going to make you money. So it's so important that you realize you are in the driver's seat of this business. You are in the driver's seat and you get to choose the path. You're driving down the road in whatever car you want to imagine you're driving in. Maybe you're on a bicycle if that's what you prefer. You're going down the road. You get to choose which path. You get to choose if you veer off and go onto this direction. You can go back and forth between roads, paths. You can choose. You are in control. And something that I have found so interesting the last couple of years is that realizing that we are in control actually helps us feel happier. So realizing that we have the agency, that we're making the decisions makes us happier. Even if it doesn't change anything, realizing that, hey, I'm the one who chose that makes us happier with that decision. It's so easy to feel like the things that are happening in our life are because of somebody else, to point fingers, to point blame, to say that it's because of blah, blah, blah. Maybe it's because I don't have enough money, because I don't have enough time. In reality, you have chosen where your money is going. You have chosen where your time is going. You have chosen where your energy is going. You have chosen the path that you are taking. You have chosen to start this creative business. And I always hear, but I don't. But I have to take care of my kids. But I have to pay for groceries. But yet, technically, you don't have to. You have agency to do whatever you want to. I mean, I do recommend that you pay for groceries and feed yourself and your family. I do recommend that you take care of your kids and love them and nourish them and give them the best childhood possible. But you don't have to. Technically, you could give your kids up for adoption. You could choose an alternative that is a non-negotiable for you, but technically you could choose that, right? So you have created non-negotiables to you, make it feel like you don't have a choice. But in reality, you do have a choice, and you have made that choice. And that's because that is what is most in alignment for you, right? Or I hope that the choices that you're making are because they are in most alignment for you. If they're not, you might want to reconsider that. Um, so, yeah, there's no one way to do things. There are so many different paths you can take as a creative entrepreneur. If this podcast in general, the Pattern Design Circle podcast, resonates with you, chances are the path that you are wanting to choose or that you have chosen is not to work for an algorithm. It's not specifically all tied to money. Instead, you are more interested in creating for yourself, creating for passion, creating to share something, creating to make an impact, creating to inspire and to motivate and to empower and to help other people. Um, and and so that's also leads into this conversation that they had on the interview of we can follow what leads to success, or we can follow what lights us up. And sometimes that path merges, right? That doesn't have to be exclusive. It doesn't have to be what leads to success or what lights you up. But usually the journey looks a little bit different based on your original intention. Um, like I said just a bit ago, that so many of the people that you see as super successful now, it's not because they started out successful or maybe even necessarily that they were trying to follow success, but they were following what lit them up, what they were really passionate and excited about, and they found success there. So in following what lights you up, what maybe you feel like is your mission or your purpose or your drive, your passion, in following those things, you can find other things along the way. But that is like your main motivator, the thing that you were, the picture that you were following. It's like that's your, no, I don't like this analogy anymore. I was gonna say that's your destination, but I actually think that when we're following those things, when we are following the things that light us up, when we are following our passion, that is what we get to embody throughout the entire journey, rather than it just being a destination. It feels to me as though when you are following the path that leads to success, success is the destination. Success is something that you finally get to experience once you get to the end of the road. But you have to take the whole journey to get there. And so I personally, and my people in general, um, prefer to follow a path that is so exciting and vibrant and aligned and just makes you feel so happy and lit up along the journey the whole time. It might not be the quickest way to money. It might not be the fastest way to what society would perceive as quote unquote success. But that's a choice that we tend to make, is that we would prefer to have this thing that feels so good, where our body feels so good, so aligned, and we get to enjoy the whole journey. All right. Um, Story time. Uh, Jacob shared on this interview a story of this person uh, who's like a kind of a big deal, I think, in the music industry, who wanted to give Jacob Collier an opportunity to work with him um, when for his career. Like it was kind of helping guide him into success, essentially was the idea. Um, when Jacob first started on YouTube. And so this guy, Quincy, he saw Jacob's work and he offered Jacob this, what seemed to be a really great opportunity. And Jacob said no. Like, even though logically, maybe what we're trained by society uh, to say would have been yes, he said no. Um, and he dives into his reasons, which I really love. I don't remember them off the top of my head now, but really was about, alignment and growing and all the things that he wanted to do on his own first. Um, and so instead, Jacob said to him, "Can we just be friends?" He wanted to just be equals with this person on a peer level, on a friendship level, not with the intention of advancing his career, but with the purpose to share this mutual passion, share this thing that they both really love. And I love that so much. We can so often um, fear losing opportunities. We can feel like if an opportunity or quote unquote opportunity arises, that we need to take it in order to find success, in order to make money, in order to XYZ, whatever you think you'll get out of it. But a lot of times we know in ourselves if it's actually something in alignment, something that we're ready for, something that makes sense, all of those things. So, do you follow that aligned kind of message from your body, that intuition, or do you follow the fear? And it's so easy to follow the fear because that's kind of just what we're used to. That's like this is supposed to be the opportunity of a lifetime, and what if you never have it again? But I love this perspective of creating a connection with this person with no ulterior motive except to connect. And we have that opportunity with anybody, whether it's somebody who can advance our career or not, whether it's in networking, whether it's, you know, it could be somebody else in the industry. We are so used to hearing about or perceiving things as opportunities for advancement, of networking to build connections so that you can XYZ. But what if you made it about the connection? What if, like, what was actually driving your business was those just very honest, genuine connections? And I would go so far as to say that if these people aren't willing to have genuine, honest connections, if they're not interested in like a friendship, they probably aren't the kind of people that you actually would want to be doing, these big deals with, these big collaborations with, all of that kind of stuff. If they're only in it for that business relationship, right? Um, Now, I know that's not true for everyone. I'm just making assumptions based on maybe who I think is in my audience. um, but I personally would highly encourage you to make decisions based on connections, on being a good, genuine, kind human being who cares about other people. It doesn't mean you have to be BFS with everybody you've ever come across, of course. Um, but if something's not feeling in alignment, if it doesn't feel like the right time, you can absolutely opt to go that direction. All right. Now, in terms of like marketing, reach, engagement, whoops, all of those different kinds of things, whether you're talking about a specific platform, a specific marketing strategy, all of those kinds of things. In the context of this interview conversation, Jacob was talking about YouTube, but I think it applies to a lot of things. So he said, think about what you can give to it rather than what you can get from it. So, uh, in the original context, talking about YouTube, what can you add to YouTube to make it more valuable? What kind of content can you create to provide value to your audience and to provide value to the platform as a whole? Like, what can you do to help people want to be on YouTube? How can you help people to want to spend their time watching these long form contents on content, this long form content, these long form videos on YouTube? Um, and heck, if you think about it in that kind of terms, that is kind of more the terms of what the platform owners are thinking about it from. So if you're like, all right, what can I provide? What can I give? That actually is like what the platform is looking for. Because that is what is going to lead to engagement. It's going to lead to follows and watches and whatever. Um, it's it's going to lead to those things because you are providing value, rather than being focused on what can I get from it? Can I get followers? Can I get email subscribers? Can I get, you know, whatever, follows and likes and um, watch hours and all of the things. So rather than being focused on receiving, really, really like I feel like personally, these things lead to the same thing, right? But the intention that you're coming from is from a place of making it about the audience, about making it a thing of value, a thing of something that they're really going to enjoy, rather than making it about the numbers. Um, so I think that's a great hack to kind of I don't know, to create content, to create art, to create products in a way that is aligned, in a way that feels good, that feels like you are providing value and providing something helpful. And also, because that's like what these platforms are about, you are going to achieve those number goals as well because of it. But you are going to reach your goals and your terms of success, your definitions of success, um, like earlier because you have achieved it just by creating the content, right? Um, so I feel like that makes content creation feel so much better. You're not just chasing the numbers. Okay. And then this is actually leaning again into what we talked about in the part one of this episode, um, about having room for flexibility, not being so rigid. Um, so Jacob said the more certain you are about your brand, the less opportunity there is for happy accidents. So if you are so stuck in this idea of what it is that you create, who you are, how you show up, all the things, there's not this space and opportunity for spontaneity and for flow, for things to just happen organically. Um, and so rather than throwing it all away, saying, yeah, okay, I just want happy accidents, um, I would encourage you to just not have that death grip on these things. When you do your branding, when you have determined your brand value and your brand voice, use them as a guide, use them as what is the name for a muse? Um, muse. I wasn't saying the word amuse, amuse, that's two words. A muse. You like use it as your muse. Um, your inspiration. Um, your kind of your guide to create your content and to create what it is that you have envisioned. But that's not your like the only thing that you have to follow. Um, if you have a loose enough grip on it that other things can happen, other things can come up, you have space and you have flexibility for those things, you can still have those happy accidents. You can still have that creative flow and passion and energy and room for things to change and to just, as I believe everything always is meant to, um, expand and follow different paths, and that's okay. Uh, so when you do your branding work, when you know, like map out your business, it doesn't have to be set in stone. It's helpful, it's important, it's valuable, and you can still allow space for the other. It's a balance. It's a balancing act. I think everything in life is a balancing act of all of these things. So, and then he says, which I think is in my mind related to the same conversation, the moment you know who you are, you stop learning. So it's this idea of, all right, so my brand is this, I am this, I do this, and you end up stuck in these ruts. Um, you just are stuck there. You aren't growing, you aren't evolving, you aren't becoming the next version of yourself, the next version of your art, the next version of your business. Um, you have lost the growth mindset. And I think a growth mindset is so valuable in so many ways. I think that it helps us to connect with people, it helps us to be creative, it helps us to evolve, it helps us to follow our natural ebbs and flows and seasonalities and cycles and all of the things. Um, so don't feel so maybe even stuck to this image of who you are, this idea of who you are. There's I know that like the 20s, in years, your age, people often feel like this is like a time of getting to know themselves. But that's not who you are forever. You want to start to understand yourself on a deeper level, but you're not that same person forever. You go through more experiences. You you things change, life changes, years pass by, you have new stories, you have new perspectives. And the same thing is true as an artist, and the same thing is true as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. Um, Allow yourself to continue growing so that your business can grow and expand into whatever it's meant to be, so that your art and your products can grow and evolve into what it's meant to be, your marketing, your um, uh, I don't know what I was going to say after that. I had something in mind. I lost it though. Anyway, the point is, once you have done maybe like this foundational work of your business and of your marketing, that's not the end all be all. It can change. It's okay for it to change. It's wonderful to change. It's meant to change. These things are meant to help you understand who you are and what your business is and what you create, but it's not meant to define it. So if it changes, that's fine. You just recognize that it changes because you keep coming back to these foundations. Um, and when you have that flexibility to change, you aren't going to be as upset about changes in technology, changes in social media platforms, because you're used to being fluid and adjusting and changing. So it's all good. Okay, now let's dive into talking about fear. Um, I think it's so easy. I don't know if it's a societal thing. I don't know if it's a cultural thing. I don't know if it's a human thing. But it's so easy to get caught up in fear, to allow fear to paralyze us, to allow fear to be the decision maker for us. And I don't like that. I don't think that's the best way to do things. I don't think it's the healthiest way to do things. So let's talk about a few things about fear. Um, in this interview, they talked about the fear of running out of time and of wasting time drives the fear of making mistakes. So we can often feel like we need to have things perfect. We need to accomplish something in a certain amount of time. We need to create at a certain production level. But the argument here is that that is just coming out of fear. That is coming out of a fear of making mistakes because you feel as if there's not enough time, because you feel like time's going to run out. And because of that, you feel like you're worried that you're going to waste that time that's going to run out. And then because of that, you're afraid to make mistakes because that's going to take time and that might feel like it's wasting time. But in making mistakes, we learn so much more than in doing things perfectly. We learn things about ourselves. We discover new things about our creativity, about our artistic process. We can create entirely new art through quote unquote mistakes. That like those are the happy accidents, right? Um, and so changing our mindset around time can be so powerful, and maybe it's so important. We can choose to believe, we can choose to trust that there is enough time, that whatever you need to accomplish, there is enough time. and that the things that don't fit in that time, they don't matter. That's part of why I am a big fan of prioritization and focus. So you have an idea of, okay, I know I have time right now. What is important to me to focus on? And then we don't have to worry about making time for it later. We can allow for that free space, that free time, to allow things to just flow. But just in general, on a larger scale, believing that there's enough time for your business. There is enough time for it to be successful, whatever that looks like for you. So Jacob, one of the things he said was the biggest myth is that you have to act now and that there is a rush. There is no rush ever. Not only to build, but also to start over. I'm kind of speechless. I'm like, what else do I add to that? But I love it, love it, love it, love it so much. Um, there is no rush ever. Any rush that you're feeling, it's a rush that you're putting on yourself or a rush that you're allowing other people to put on you. Believing that there is enough time, living in a space where you're not in a lack mindset, I think is at least part of the cure for this. Um, we can feel so rushed, especially as business owners, to hit this certain income level, to hit this certain level of success, to accomplish this, to grow to that, to blah, 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 be featured in this, to have this title, excuse me, be featured in this, to have this title, all of the things. We feel like we just have to get there and accomplish it. But what's after that? It's just going to be another thing that you set up for yourself, right? It's just going to be another thing that you think that you have to rush to. And then are you losing kind of the purpose of the journey on the way there because you're just trying to hit all these milestones you're stressing out about? You're scared. You're living in this fear of lack of time. Um, we can just allow space, allow time, allow flexibility. And sometimes you have to create that through stability in other areas, but it's okay. It's okay for things to take time. It's okay for your creative practice to take time. It's okay for it to take time to really get clear on your branding and your messaging. It's okay for it to take time to really get clear on what makes you unique in your business. It's okay for it to take time to really hone in your art. It's okay for it to take time to create a single piece of art. It's okay. It's okay for it to take time. There's no rush. There's no rush to build it. And also, if you choose to start over, that's okay. There's no rush to have something perfect or to keep something perfect. I'm a little flabbergasted. I don't have a whole lot more to say about that. Right? It's just so perfect. Okay. Last thing that I want to leave you on is what we have to offer our audience, what we have to offer our customers. So Jacob said the primary currency, besides your perspective, is trust. And it's not just engagement. You get to decide what matters, and you find those people with the same interests. So you get to, so what he's saying is really kind of like the two most important things, or the things that we can exchange, the things that we can give, is our perspective, our own unique view and stories and experience of the world, and we can like the biggest thing that we can build in our audience is trust. Are we doing things that build trust? You are most likely familiar with the term like no trust factor. And that is so important. It is so important that our audience is able to trust us. If they don't trust us, why would they purchase from us? If they don't trust us, why would they consume our content? If they don't trust us, why would they pay attention to us? So are we giving them a reason to trust us? So the argument here is that it's not about getting your customers to engage. It's not about getting your audience to engage. It's about building trust with them. It's about building that connection. So it's going back to that connection aspect again, right? Like it's not about these numbers. It's about feeling that like mutual humanness, this mutual human connection, and building that. And that is the most valuable thing that we can build with our audience. And so in order to do that, we decide what matters the most to us, and we find the people that have the exact same values, that have the same interests, the same passion. And then we build this business of connection. And you're able to create from that. You're able to sell in that. You're able to build in that. And that's coming all the way back down to where we ended the last episode, which was talking about AI, talking about artificial intelligence. And to share that quote again, Jacob said, as the spectacular becomes ordinary, the ordinary will become spectacular. And so what is spectacular and also ordinary about us as humans is our ability to connect, to understand, to be compassionate, to be empathetic, all those human emotions and connection points. And that's what's most important in building our businesses. That's what's most important in being a creative entrepreneur, whether it's through your art, through your marketing, through your business structure, through your products, through your services, any of those things. It's continuing to have that human touch in ways that make sense. It doesn't mean that you can't use technology. It doesn't mean that you can't get assistance from technology to help you make those parts of your business easier and more efficient and more productive, because then that can allow you to have more space for these creative things, to share your emotions and stories and all of those things. But it is saying that being a human, showing up as a human, embracing that humanness and not being ashamed of it, not being uninterested in it, but to value that and to embrace that and to show up in that is like the most important thing as a creative business owner, as a creative entrepreneur. So, I guess just as a quick summary of this episode, we are not going to let fear dictate our decisions, right? We're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to be perfectionists anymore. We're not going to live in a lack mindset anymore. We are going to make that first mark. We are going to do that thing. We are going to create out of a place of passion and love and humanness. We are going to connect with people just as humans. And we're going to lean into these gifts that we already have that are already so amazing and beautiful, and just allow those things to shine. Sound good? All right, I hope this episode was inspiring for you. I hope it gave you some things to think about. I hope that if you are allowing anything to hold you back, I hope that if you are allowing anything to hold you back, whether it is a lack mindset or a fear, that this helps you to identify those things and give you some of the ambition and ammunition, I guess, to kick those things to the curb, to really embody yourself, embody your passion, and to use those things to drive your business, to not be focused on the business numbers, but to be focused on the value and the trust building and being a human connection. All right. Thank you so much for joining me here on this episode, and I'll see you again on the next one. Wow. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you found it valuable, please share the podcast with a designer friend. And if you have a minute, leave a review. It's so helpful for me and means the world to me. Chat soon.